to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Appreciate everybody doing that. I'd like to call the order of the February 12, 2026 meeting of the Henry County Board of Supervisors. First thing to do will be a roll call of members, and please note the secretary.
Alrighty, Dietrich,
Yes.
Lindeen,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
and Schilling, yes.
Okay, under item number 4 of the agenda is new business. Letter A is Main Street, Mount Pleasant Financial Support presentation by Lisa. Lisa, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you. I will give you each a copy of our annual report for 2025.
Thank you.
We like to update you every year what we do downtown. We had a good year. It was a quieter year, not any big projects, but we were able to complete the second phase of becoming a National Historical District. As far as we know, they will be announcing that we do become a National Historical District in August. As of right now, any projects that are in the district, whether they're on the National Registry or not, do get to use historical tax credits as a contributing building. So that's a total game changer for us, because one of the projects we've wanted to do for quite a few years is the True Value buildings. It does not qualify for the National Registry because of the work that's been done on the building, the front of the building, especially with windows and things like that, because windows are definitely a touch point for tax credits. And there's always been a gap. So finding an investor for those buildings to purchase the 2 buildings and to put upper story housing in those buildings has been a problem, because there was too big of a gap for a developer to come in and do that. That's why when we did the Union Block building, it was because no one else could do it, because the developer, there was too big of a gap. So that is definitely high on our list for this year. We have done 65 new upper story housing since 2002 in the downtown. It's made a huge difference. If you look at what our district assessed at in 2002 when we became a Main Street community to now, it's roughly around a 30% increase because of the buildings that we have done. One, I was talking to Nathan, one that will be coming back on the tax rolls will be the Brazelton, either this year or next year, because it did use a 100% tax abatement after they did that project. So that is definitely on our, and we've been talking to some developers. We've got some interest because we've been able to, the only way we can do projects like that is to layer them with different funding, and with being able to use historical tax credits, it should close that gap and should be very attractive for someone to come in and put between 7 to 9 apartments in the 2 buildings. If you ever have a chance, which you could later this year, we're going to do some upper story tours in the downtown to show people what buildings have been done, and then also to show them what hasn't and what could happen in these buildings. It's the coolest space I've seen. The building on the south is 1 story. The building on the north is actually 2 stories, but if you look at them from street level, they're identical in height. So it'll make some really cool spaces there. So that's one thing we want to work on. Last year we saw 4 new businesses come to downtown, 1 expansion into the downtown. This year already, by the end of the first quarter, we'll have 4 new businesses in the downtown. We are still running less than 5% vacancy in the downtown. We get requests monthly, if not weekly, of businesses looking at Mount Pleasant. We do know from talking to the retailers that we pull from a minimum of 50 miles, closer to 70 miles of people coming to downtown Mount Pleasant to shop. We do know also that we've pulled as far as Hannibal, Missouri, of people that have seen our stores online and have came shop and dropped over $400 in our downtown. And that's just at a retail store. That's not filling their tanks with gas, not going to our restaurants. Main Street, every year we have to, we're probably one of the rare economic development organizations that gets training all the time. We are required to go to 3 trainings throughout the years. It's usually a 2 to 3 day training. And we also have to be accredited through the National Main Street America and the state. So we have to file reports quarterly to them of what changes are in our downtown, from new signs to construction, businesses open, businesses closed, volunteer hours. Things that we do to help the community is we run the gates at Old Thrashers for the whole week. We also run a concession stand during October for all their haunted house and stuff like that. It's a fundraiser for us to keep going, but also to help the community and reach out to a lot of people. So, and I know I did contact regional planning and got the sales tax. In the last 12 years is what they have for the information. In Mount Pleasant alone, we've seen a $103 million increase. It's about a 4.9% increase a year in sales tax. And downtown Mount Pleasant is one of the higher places. If you consider us as one employer, we are one of the highest employers for employee count. We have over 600, closer to 700 employees that work in our district that come in every day. And they are working on getting me the information of just our district to see where we are and what increase we've had in the past 5 years. But I think it totally speaks for itself, and we continue to work and promote. We have huge events every year that bring thousands of people to the downtown and to Mount Pleasant, from the community Easter egg hunt to the Which Way to Maine for kids. Our Ag Music on Main to celebrate our agriculture history was huge. We had over 1,500 people at that event. It's truly a placemaking and a reason to come to Mount Pleasant and Henry County. So all that's in the report. We also have 5 new projects coming on this year that we use. We partner with the city on an exterior improvement grant. They give us $15,000 a year to administer to different businesses. We have 5 that will be in process this spring, and it always leverages. For every dollar that we give as a grant, we get 2 to 3 private dollars spent. So it's a great way to leverage some upkeep to the buildings downtown. So we're hoping and asking that you continue to support Main Street Mount Pleasant financially, and I'd be glad to answer any questions if you had them.
Questions for Lisa?
I don't, because she and I talked a
Yeah.
tad bit over the course of the last week since we went to the Southeast Iowa Days together, and we saw her yesterday, so I don't, but feel free.
Well, I'm in communication with you quite often, so I'm okay.
What, I didn't?
I said, I'm in communications with you quite often.
Yep,
so-
yep. And I see Chad quite often too, so. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item under new business is B, All God's Creatures, discussion on the end of year first contract service year. So Emily Davis, I believe, is going to be the presenter. So thanks, Emily, for coming in.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a little handout for y'all. Would you like one?
Sure.
Thank you. Did you want one?
Sure.
So this year, as you know, was our first year contracted with y'all. We took in 136 animals. We had 22 returned to their owners. We adopted out 78. We had 4 euthanized, and we had 4 that passed away in our care. We transferred out 2 to another shelter, and then we still have, at the end of 2025, we had 26 still in care. The average length of stay for a stray in our care is 70 days. And then, as you can see in the graph below, our peak months for intake were July and September. And then the key areas where these animals are coming in from are Oakland Mills and Mardan Trailer Court, which made up about 30% of all of the county intake. And then county impound made up 30% of all of our intakes. Do you have any questions about the data piece of it?
I'll wait until the end of your presentation to share anything more or ask you anything more of this.
Okay. I don't really have much else other than just presenting that data for you. I know that you guys had some concerns financially, so I wanted to be here to address any of those concerns.
Well, yeah, and unless these guys want to speak up, I'll kind of look at this. It looked like over the year from March 1 to December 31, we had the contract service year for that. And it looks like the county had paid, give or take, I might be off a critter, about $15,540 in expense. I think that's pretty close.
That's on the nose, yeah.
You know, that's a lot of money for stray critters, stray dogs, cats. I realize that we got to do something with them. Can you unpack the catch, treat, release, neutering type of thing where, can you unpack that and explain that so
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
know more about that?
Yeah. So TNR, trap, neuter, release, is when you set a live trap, or some people can grab them. You know, some of them aren't super feral, but usually you set a live trap, you trap them, you get them to the vet, they get spayed, neutered, and vaccinated for rabies usually, and then they get an ear tip. Then they get released back to the area where they were. So this helps, say Susan has 10 cats in her neighborhood. If she gets half of them TNR'd, we're still gonna have an issue down the road because the 5 cats that aren't are gonna keep populating and populating and populating. And she's gonna end up with 30, 40, 50 cats within a matter of years. When you have all of them TNR'd, the new cats coming in are either going to leave because there's no one to mate with, so there's no reason to stick around because there's no incentive there. Or if they do stay, we now know, okay, that one is not done because it doesn't have an ear tip. So now we can get that one TNR'd so that the population doesn't expand to 40, 50 cats. And what's really happening in Mardan Trailer Court is you have a lot of animals that I'm guessing tenants moved out and left cats behind. Those cats stayed and populated. People have taken them into their homes, not gotten them fixed. They've populated inside their homes, and then they get back outside, and it's a horrific issue in that trailer court, I think. But essentially, it's a little bit more cost effective to do that, especially over time. Because if you can really target an area like Mardan Court for TNR, then maybe in a few years, you're seeing 5% of intakes coming from Mardan Trailer Court instead of 30%. There'll still probably be some because people will leave behind animals or things like that happen, and people will still call and say, hey, there's a new animal in the trailer court. But it should, over time, if done correctly and effectively and fully, should over time reduce the population. It's the only proven method to reduce populations. Because if you take all of the cats out, and let's say what they used to do is they used to euthanize them. So they take all the cats out of an area and they euthanize them. In a few years, you have a whole new batch of cats that are populating. When you have a set population that are spayed and neutered, the new cats coming in, like I said, they don't wanna stay, cause there's not a whole lot of incentive. The food is being eaten already. There's nothing to populate with, so there's no like mating incentive to stay. And they'll either move on or they'll get TNR'd, or they'll come to us as a stray and then we'll spay and neuter them and adopt them out. So that's kind of the goal of TNR.
Then, that idea, I see if a cat doesn't get fixed or anything, I mean, what, 2 or 3 litters a year? What's the an average of 5 or 6 kittens, that snowballs pretty quick.
Yep.
So it seems like we gotta do something, because $15,540 is a lot of money, $140 a head. And I just wanna make sure that everybody's aware that the county doesn't pay for like this extended period. You said, the average stay of 70 days. We are paying, the county is on the dime for a 7-day window, a pickup of a stray and room and board of that stray for 7 days. Then the way it's designed, it comes off of the county dime onto All God's Creatures or whoever else, other than the county. I'm not telling you how to spend your money at all, but I'm trying to not spend much county money, you understand? So the goal is to limit these numbers, so we gotta come up with a program, because that's a lot of money. The county is not paying for any vaccinations, non-emergent surgeries, nothing like that. We're trying to limit the exposure to the county, or the expense to the county, as much as possible, but still be compliant with the code requirements of what we gotta do with these things.
And all these are brought to you by an individual with the blessings of a deputy sheriff.
Yes.
So
Yep.
they can't drop them off. The sheriff's office is involved with the drop off.
Kind of a check and balance system that you can reconcile the reports that are coming from the SO, then with your intake reports, and they can reconcile, so we're not getting 1,400 cats. I mean, we're getting the number that are being handled. But I guess I would just, to me, this seems like we have to think about, even when an animal has been spayed or neutered, it can still be a stray over and over and over, right? How do we combat that from just being a repeat wash, over and over? Because at $140 a head, we don't wanna have to pay, umpteen hundreds of dollars for a stray that just keeps recycling through that system.
So really that's not happening. So we haven't had any repeat strays coming in as strays, right? So if they get adopted out, they might get returned to us, but the county is not paying for that return. So if someone adopts out an animal and they return it to us, that's just on us. We just take the animal back. That is not through the sheriff's department or anything. If an animal, usually the ones that are repeat, we have a few with the city that are repeat, but they get reclaimed. So they're not charged to the county either, if that were the case. If they're spayed and neutered and vaccinated and they have an ear tip, then what we can do is we can say, okay, this is a TNR cat, we can return it back to the place where it came from, unless there are health matters that need to be addressed.
To me, it almost seemed like an owner responsibility, or the owner. I mean, if they're gonna have that critter running around as their pet, they need to be a responsible pet owner and maintain that, keep it from straying, keep it from repopulating and just propagating the problem just on down the road, so.
Yeah, and the issue is we can't force owners to spay and neuter their pets, right? So when a cat comes to us, we have one that comes from Mardan Trailer Court, and he comes in, we've only technically intook him once, but someone brought him to us before for a microchip scan. Unaltered, running around the trailer court, and that person doesn't even live there. She just brings him with her when she visits a friend, and he goes in and out as she's there, and he's populating that trailer court as well. But we can't we can offer her, you know, resources about low-cost spay neuter, we can tell her all the benefits of neutering her cat, we can tell her that, you know, he should be neutered and that it'll reduce his wandering, we can tell her all of that, and really, the responsibility falls back on that owner to get that pet fixed. And one of the issues is a lot of these people don't own the cats per se, so I'm using Mardan Trailer Court as an example because it's one of the higher intake points where we consistently get animals from, and that have been consistently kittens. So there might be a few people in that trailer court that are feeding the cats. So which one is the owner? Are they all responsible? It's kind of, we're coming into that with the city a little bit too, what defines animal ownership versus a caregiver who's just trying to do the right thing, and help out animals in the neighborhood. Because ideally, we don't want them to call us with all the cats that have been eating and living there for years, because they're not strays. Someone's taking care of them, they're there in that community.
But
So
I
it's
guess
just
that,
difficult, and I don't think the county should be fully responsible for funding a TNR program. I don't think that All God's Creatures should be fully responsible for funding a TNR program. I think it's a community effort. I think, Ann is right there. Her neighborhood, she had a few community cats running around her neighborhood. They got them fixed, and now there's not a whole lot of cats running around the neighborhood.
I've only seen one odd,
Yep.
and that's 6 years ago.
So I mean,
you know,
it's just
I'm
about
not, I'm not,
community kind of pitching
I'm
in.
not questioning the spay neuter program to naturally kind of take the thing, but,
Yeah,
you know, at 5 years, maybe decreasing a little bit over that 5 years, that's still, you know, close to $100,000 on animal control. Other community, I mean, we just don't wanna bleed to death on these things. I mean, code enforcement, animal control enforcement, yeah. It just seems like the owner of that animal just needs to step up, and if you're gonna have Miss Meow running around, you need to take care of the cat or the dog or whatever.
and I don't have the exact numbers. I should have outlined how many cats got reclaimed. The cats don't get reclaimed
Okay.
is part of the issue too. So a lot of people don't claim ownership of any of these cats running around.
On my records, I was able to count 90 that were not returned.
Yep.
That might have been off a cat or two, but
Probably
I
a little
think I
bit, yeah,
counted-
114
yeah.
weren't returned,
I
but
had,
the cats might be closer to 90.
I was looking at like last month's stats, and I think I come up with 101 cats, and 90 of them were not reclaimed, or they just had to get absorbed into the system there somehow, so.
Yeah, and that's really the tricky issue is that, yeah, a lot of people don't claim these cats. They're just running around the communities, they might have seen them, and then a new person sees them for the first time and calls us or the sheriff's department, you know? Or they truly did just wander into that neighborhood and then they get called, you know?
So I guess maybe with a little bit, I guess from this standpoint, I'm just kinda giving a little bit of peer pressure to the cat owners, dog owners. Take care of your critters. I mean, get them treated, get them fixed. Cause it's costing a lot of money, and,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
if,
coming out of your dime anyway, isn't it?
yeah, it is. And,
This is quite a bit different than we've had in the past, Emily, and that's what I appreciate you coming in, and we get an understanding.
Yeah.
And even listening to the news reports, you heard Davenport spending $1 million a year on
I heard
Animals.
something about that too, I think that,
so, we're quite a bit smaller, but you're doing the right thing according to what we have to follow by the code. You're doing our work for us, and I think, I have no question as to what you're doing now with this explanation.
you know,
I guess my only question would be, you know, these are reference to us, but the city has their own policy, right? And Sheriff Ganami is here, you know, cats are an issue, obviously, the city's dealing with it, and are you and your deputies actually making those references to all God's creatures that we're talking about here, by chance?
Yes,
All of those, like every one of those that you're aware of is what we're talking about here?
I believe so.
Okay.
The
rather than
stats
giving
come,
city, so we're not getting.
one set of stats that I looked at come from your office.
Right.
Okay.
And I think I talked to Chad that we're gonna start sending those on a monthly basis so they can be audited compared to the invoices.
Perfect.
That'd be great.
And I guess, Emily, you're probably not the decision maker for the whole entity or anything, but if you could help the county out on $140 seems to be, that buys a lot of cat food. That buys, you know,
So I guess,
if we can adjust any figures on the amounts, that would at least help a little bit, so.
I understand where you're coming from completely. When I look at, you know, our numbers we spent on operations, so that's staff, utilities, food, litter, all of those things, spay and neuter, veterinary care, we're looking at $200,000. So if a third of that is coming from county animals, kind of see where we're coming from, where what you're actually paying is really for that 7-day strike. And I think a solution that could be a potential is if we could find, you know, lower cost vets in the area, or figure out some agreements with our vets to make that cost lower. Then what we could do is start TNRing cats, and then you'd pay less money for the TNR. They'd go back to where they came from, and then, but again, it still is it's the responsibility of the community as well. And so it's.
What are your
tricky.
negotiated fees with like the city of Mount Pleasant for their
140 per animal.
140?
Yep.
Okay. And, you know, I talked to Washington County, and yeah, they're spending a little north of $32,000 on dog and cat patrol, so.
I think it's pretty standard across the board where communities are actually being taken care of. When you look at different areas where they don't take in every stray animal, or they have very limited contracts, or maybe they're municipal, the budget might be a little less, but then also the community is saying, nobody's doing anything about these cats, no one's doing anything about these dogs, like where's the animal control? So it is a tricky thing, and we are trying to be as fair as possible. I know it's a lot of money for you guys, and I'm hoping that, here's one of my theories. You guys have contracted with a much smaller facility in the past, so the amount of animals that could be taken was quite a bit different. You said that last year in 2024, it was like 44 animals total, I think, that went into the pound from the county. So you're seeing like almost 100 animal increase, but that's simply because our capacity is higher. So I'm hoping with consistent animal control and not leaving, you know, any animal left behind out there, you know, or at least not as many. Hopefully it will start reducing on its own a little bit as we take them in, spay and neuter them, and get them adopted out. But truly, we still are gonna have an issue with Mardan. And I think one of my potential solutions is to get in contact with the owner of that trailer court, see if we can get some information to those individuals, see if we can, from an AGC standpoint, not a county standpoint, see if we can get them connected with low-cost spay and neuter. I know that there are people, and I'm sure Sheriff McNamee can kind of probably has a deeper understanding of this, but I know there are people that have quite a few cats living in their homes in that area. So getting them education, resources, support, I think it's gonna be really important in making an impact in that community. I also know that there's quite a big, I think the people in that neighborhood are very upset about the cat population, not only because it's large. I mean, there was one person who admitted 4 kittens that had crawled into her trailer from a hole underneath her trailer. So that's almost like having rats come up. It's just surprising. I love cats, and they're not a nuisance, but that kind of behavior is kind of, I wouldn't want that happening. I wouldn't want that happening to me, so.
Well, and
Chad, when are we negotiating the contract again?
it's $140 a head.
No, when is the
Oh,
contract?
Soon, March 31, I believe, is the.
Yeah,
So
that seems
there's
right.
some issues that we can put on discussion.
The, Train of thought now, Steve.
I did that on purpose.
Thank you.
That's okay. Broke it up a little bit.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Here, come back to me. I was reading some article about the treatment and everything. Is there any chemical treatment that can be used to sterilize the males? I was reading of a serum that can be injected, that almost like a chemical castration type thing.
I can do some research.
Is there anything, I mean, that would be obviously cheaper than an operative type of procedure, so.
I can do some research on that.
I'm asking, cause
Kitty
I
birth
have no
control.
idea. I don't,
Yeah, no,
I got a barn cat.
I'm unfamiliar, so I'd be interested to learn if there are alternatives to TNR. You know, of course, yeah. It's a large issue, and I sympathize with you, because it really put us in a difficult situation, especially after September. We had to close intake for a little bit, because it was just too much. We had to increase staff hours and everything else, so, yeah.
Any other questions for Emily or all God's creatures as a whole? I know there's several board members here that might be able to help. Appreciate you coming in, kinda unpacking that whole process and things, so
Absolutely.
maybe a little bit of public awareness will go a long ways.
Yeah,
Thanks,
and I
Emily.
think if we partner with the sheriff's department in some ways too, we can maybe reach a few more people, so. Anyway, thank you guys
Okay,
for
yeah,
listening
thank
to
you.
us, and
Thank you.
we'll chat soon, I'm sure.
Okay, new business, letter C is Carosh Compliance Solutions, presentation concerning HIPAA regulations and training, so.
You got something you wanna put up, Stephanie?
I sent you the PDF
Oh, I'm sure I have it.
if you want. Or I can throw it on the bottom also.
The wireless training,
No.
which one is it?
It came with the master manual. They was on Saturday night.
I'm pretty sure I wasn't looking at this Saturday night.
It's like 11 o'clock or something when I did it. 10:30, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, right. You want the,
One morning I was looking at something from you at 2
Yeah. Uh-huh.
in the morning.
I don't think I responded back at you.
Not right away.
Jake would.
Well, that's the master manual. There's also a
Did you respond like midnight or some crazy thing? 4 o'clock in the morning? What's going on? Jake doesn't sleep.
There's copies of, I don't know. They're not in color, so I was like, printer was not really
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
lovely.
Alright, that's where you wanna go, right?
Well, that's the policy manual, which we will get to
Okay.
quick, so that's fine.
Oh, I got more.
Yeah, there should have been a PDF file titled 0212 Board Update, POS Update.
This one. This one?
Yeah. So we're just here to give you it's been about 3 months or so since we were here last, so to give you an update on kind of where we're at, what we've been doing. I'll go through some activity updates, kind of what we've been working on. The 2024 final rule, which is some policy updates we need to make to your manual. Then your training program, and then a little more detail on your indemnification program. So with the activity updates, the first thing really we need to do is appoint a new chief security officer. That used to be your, yeah. So we need to appoint a new chief security officer. Currently, I've got the chief privacy officer as Robin District, the district teacher. So just wanted to point that out, so if you decide you want to change that at all, you can do it at the same time. We have found that sometimes having the chief privacy officer be maybe in public health or one of the departments that is more kind of attuned to PHI can help, but you can appoint anybody within the county at that position, so that's completely up to you. We have met with public health. I met with them multiple times via Zoom to update their forms, to both meet the regulations and then the new requirements that are coming out, or that have come out from the 2024 final rule. I consulted on and or made some recommendations on 8 different forms that they use. I did come in and meet with department heads. Dan and I both did on January 13th to go through with them what they should kind of be looking for in each of their departments that could contain protected health information or also identifiable information. So we had that discussion.
I think that was helpful. I think everybody appreciated that just because it brought them all in line to what we're looking
And why
at
we're
and helping
doing
to
it.
set the expectation, which is where we need to continue to follow through so that we get the guidelines where we need to be so that we're covered from
Right.
that 80% rule so that we get that $100,000 that you're gonna
Yeah.
identify us with, and then you're gonna explain that, right?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, that's at the end.
Perfect.
So when we get to the 2024 final rule, the policy updates, what happened is, the federal government issued this rule that aligns the confidentiality requirements for substance use disorder treatment information under 42 CFR Part 2 with key elements of the privacy rule. So there's areas that kind of overlap, and they're trying to make them kind of more cohesive and kind of follow the same policies. While HIPAA protects all health information, Part 2 is specific to substance use disorder treatment information, and it requires a stricter protection, that kind of information. It's kind of like, we know mental health information is more restricted, behavioral health information, that stuff. All substance use disorder information is also more restricted. So some of the different types of changes that they made or that we had to make within the policies had to do with disclosures for emergency situations, access to records, breach reporting, when a breach occurs, business associate obligations, the notice of privacy practices had to be updated with information specific to Part 2. And then these updates will ensure, of course, that the privacy program reflects the new regulations, strengthens the protections of substance use disorder records, and reduces compliance risks on your behalf. So if you want to go to the manual now, there were 24 policies that we made changes to. I don't know if you want to look at all of them. They all have to do with basically pretty much the same type of terminology throughout, where we're saying, if you're releasing information for this reason, if there's Part 2 or substance use disorder information included, we need to follow stricter protections. So it kind of just points out to people when they're reading through the policies that you can go to AS 105, it should be like page 5-ish, or 7 maybe. So to point out to them that if there is substance use disorder treatment, that they need to make sure that they are following the additional protections that are mentioned under 42 CFR Part 2. For this one in particular, this is about confidentiality. We have 2 different pledge of confidentiality forms that employees have to sign, which had to be updated, so we'll have to get those signed again, because now they have to mention substance use disorder in the confidentiality notices. So that's 2 of the forms that we have there that we updated as well. Do you want to go through each of the policies changes, or I guess however you want to handle that? I'm happy to explain each of the.
I don't know if we need to explain them all.
You want
Maybe-
to highlight the main ones or the more important ones, or
Kind of the top tier, yeah. So Pledge of Confidentiality is one of them. PR 105 is another one. It's on the Notice of Privacy Practices. There were quite a few changes to that because of the additional information that now has to be included in the notice. Breach reporting is another one. Can't think of the, sorry. Can't think of the policy number off the top of my head. That's another one where if there is a breach, we only will release information that's necessary. So if there's substance use disorder treatment information, when you get investigated by OCR, that information will only be released if they absolutely have to see that information, to see what happened with the breach. Business associate, that's AS 260, that one changed too. Same type of thing where now because if they breach your information, they have to notify you. Now it just includes substance use disorder. They have to make sure that they point out that there was substance use disorder information included in that breach. So most of them are about like those types of changes involved in the policies. Some of them have a couple lines of additional text, some of them have 10 lines of additional text. Just depends on the policy itself.
So just to jump in for a second, so a future training will include this. So all the employees will get they don't need to go through the manual policy by policy, we'll do a training on it.
Okay, was gonna be my question. So obviously when you did the training with Jake, you had a lot of policy numbers that probably don't mean a lot to a lot of folks, but as long as we hit the highlights in the training, we'll probably cover and we'll be okay. I don't think we need to know the differences in those two.
Well, we're training on your policies, that's why we notate the policy numbers in the training. So if anybody has questions, they can go back to the master manual and read the policy that it.
As long as it's
is
referenced,
from.
yeah.
We do have to make sure that everybody has access to your manual. That's part of the regulations. It needs to be out there where all employees have access to it.
Okay.
We recommend just putting it on a shared network drive that people have access to, so. they
All right,
know
you
where
guys
it
shake
is.
this head, yeah, we can
Yeah.
do that. Okay.
Yeah, any other questions on that?
It's pretty lengthy, so yeah. I don't think
Yeah.
we need to cover every
I mean, the whole
page.
manual is about a little less than 300 pages,
Yeah.
so. And the end does give sample forms, so there were some changes to sample forms. I updated those as well, but a lot of the forms I've already went through with public health.
Okay.
So they're already in the process of, or maybe have made the changes to the needed forms, so.
Okay. Excellent.
And the chief security officer has a good understanding of this.
Well, we don't have a chief
We don't have
security
one at this
officer.
point.
Acting right now, you said it was Robin,
The privacy
serving
officer.
privacy officer is
I haven't
serving at that.
actually shared the manual
capacity.
changes with her yet. Just got them done Saturday. I'm happy to meet with her and have a conversation with her on that as well.
And regarding the chief security officer, just as many of our clients, and it's kind of a standard in the industry to have one person be both the chief security and chief privacy officer from a regulatory perspective. I mean, when it comes to actual operational, you need to have a technical person who's involved to comply with the regulations. You need to have both identified a privacy and security officer. In many cases, same person.
We'll take both roles.
Would that be our HR person? You met Paul.
Oh, if you can get him to do it.
Okay, he's a contract person, so that's where I'm leading to. So does that differ because he's a contract individual or not?
No.
Okay. Steve, any thoughts? Yes, for you. Okay.
Nope, if you want him to take that role on, that's fine. We actually have programs where we are the chief privacy and chief security officer for our clients too, so the
Okay,
contract.
So you guys could do it as well? Okay.
That's our next, it'd be the next plan up from what you have to be the HIPAA expert.
So what you're saying is like it's more dollars,
Yes. It is more dollars.
ballpark?
Our base is 42,000.
Okay. Significantly more than where we're at today,
Yeah,
like 4 times more.
yeah, and your, cause that's our price now for new clients. You're kinda grandfathered in, so our HIPAA select actually starts at 16,500 now. So since you've been a client for so long, your increases haven't kept up with our actual price increases.
Okay.
And one of the reasons why it's incrementally more expensive is because we're taking on liability that we don't take on in your current, level of service. Oh.
Okay. So are we at that point where you talk about that liability then and the?
Not yet, but I can jump to it now if you want.
Well, if you've got more, continue on.
I don't have a lot more.
Okay.
Okay, so next is training. In the presentation, this is what,
Check the PDF.
yeah, I ran on, what was the date, Saturday. Okay, there you go. So we had 123 users, 56.91% completion rate. However, for our discussions, I sent out emails on Monday to, here's another, to department heads on Monday. So we made a bunch of changes, personnel changes, employees that have terminated, new employees that have come on. Overall, it's not a huge difference, but it's more updated. So now we actually have, this is as of yesterday. I ran this one yesterday. 120 users, 57.71% completion rate. So like I said, more up to date. If we go to the next slide, we've got the department breakdown. On the back of the paper I just gave you, it again is an updated breakdown by department, so we can see which departments need to complete courses, which ones. We got a couple that are, or four that are 100%. But also a lot of them, when they sent me those updates just on Monday, said, okay, we're gonna get this done. So I can see the completion rate rising probably pretty quickly over the next, 2 or 3 weeks now.
What is transition stuff?
That's 2 employees. I emailed them, I never heard back. I'm not sure where that transitions, because I tried to match things up with your website too, and there was no transitions on there.
No.
I think one of the employees' last names was Mace, and the other was, maybe another back.
They no longer work with us. That is, the department that we got rid of last year. Mental health?
Were they in
Yes,
mental health?
yes, so they no longer.
Okay, because we didn't have them with, okay, I can take them out, no problem, so we'll
That look
update
better.
that. Yep, we get 2 employees off. Like I said, I did hear back from most, I think I got 5 departments I didn't hear back from, but I didn't request them, a response if there were no changes. But all the other departments did email me with 1 change up to quite a few changes, so. The next course will be released around February 19th, so we will be looking at another course also being assigned.
Yeah, I just saw that come through a week ago or so.
Okay, next is the indemnification program. So we are indemnifying, like you just mentioned, our clients up to $100,000 in federal fines and penalties should you have a breach. And or assess those fines or penalties. To keep the indemnification enforced, you have to complete all the items that are on the compliance checklist, which I believe we provided last time. I do have 1 copy of it here if you want to see that. Again as well, it's basically all the requirements, the things that we're required to do within the program. You have to have your risk assessments done, you have to compile your remediation plans, vet your business associates, all the requirements under the regulations. But with you being a HIPAA Select client, and using that package, the two main things that we need from you are reports when you think a security incident or breach has occurred, so we can make sure those are investigated properly, and then remediate and all that information, or all the processes that have to happen when a breach occurs. And also keeping that training completion rate above 80%. So those are your two main ones, because we work with you on all the other ones, so, you know, risk assessments and all that stuff we're doing on your behalf with you. What other questions? do you
Then on
have?
the individual training record, it keeps a dashboard with what courses you've taken, what courses you've completed. Gives you the little rundown of your completion, and it tracks all your training. So that's something that anybody can, or they can look at it anytime to say, yeah, I gotta take this one.
Yeah, yep, anytime they log in, the first screen that pops up are the courses that they haven't taken, so your outstanding courses. You have to click to see your completed courses or look at your certificates above on the top, but yeah, if you go in and you have a blank dashboard right off the bat, then you're completely caught up with all your courses.
And if anybody has access issues getting onto that, drop you an email and we can make that happen.
Yep, a lot of times it's password issues. And I'll set a temporary password, send it back, and when they get in, and they reset their password, and they're off to the races after that.
So the reason this came up, Stephanie, is because when we were talking about the ICAP a couple weeks ago, or at the ISAC conference, we were talking specifically about our cybersecurity insurance and where we're at. So we obviously upped our insurance last year to cover us, and we're understood what the $100,000 was for. So specifically the fines and penalties from the government, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So if they fine you $150,000, you would cover the first $100,000, and then $50,000 would be on the county.
And does that co-insure with our ICAP insurance then? Like you'd be the first insured, they'd be the second, or how's that work?
We're not really insurance.
Okay, you're indemnifying, I
Yeah, we're
understand.
indemnifying,
Okay.
we're not in a
Okay.
technical insurance, yeah.
So we get the
And
money
it's
either way.
strictly on HIPAA. ICAP is, more for cybersecurity, so they do different kinds of things.
But it could be tied into that, because we're talking
Yeah.
a
But
violation
whatever
or a
they didn't
breach.
cover, then we would our indemnification would kick in.
Yeah, okay, all right, that helps, thank you. I got it.
And that's all that I had, unless you guys have other questions. Happy to answer.
I don't, that helps, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good explanation, and I think it just goes back to the point that everybody, all of the elected officials and all of the department heads need to make sure that their folks are following up on this so that we can continue to be current. And you're gonna do
Oh, and
department head meetings once
yeah.
a month or every 3
I'm
months?
not, I
or what's
wasn't
the
gonna come to
plan?
all of them, I'm happy to come, they're not that far away.
You can work
But
that
Paul
with
was going to, also, I'm gonna email him a monthly report, and then he was gonna bring it up during the department head meetings too.
Yeah, okay,
So,
that's fine, you guys can work together and see if you need to be there like
Yep.
quarterly or whatever,
yeah, I can definitely do that.
I think that works.
Sounds good, well, thank you guys for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, moving on the agenda, new business, letter number D is County Engineer Jake Hotchkiss, a weekly update, and approve the hire of an IRVM assistant.
All right, so, first up is a motion here. I'll go ahead and read the motion, and then we can discuss it if you guys want to move forward with it here. So, motion for February 12th, 2026, 5-2026-20, with the county engineer's recommendation that Travis Fett change from equipment operator 2 to the position of IRVM assistant within the road department, effective March 11th, 2026.
I'll make that motion.
Motion read by Engineer Hotchkiss, is there a second to that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, been properly motioned and seconded, any further discussion on that?
Anybody wanna break down that acronym?
Iowa Roadside Vegetation Manager.
So he'll be working hand in hand with Mr. Yaley.
No, he'll be working with Jeff Sloan, who's our actual manager. So what really this is a two-position, part of, internal part of our department. They're the ones that go out and do, the seeding, our spraying program, any to kind of help with the brush side of it. But they're managing what herbicides we're utilizing and, our seeding and, erosion control measures. So pretty much anything that is after we get done working on the project, what is it gonna take for our maintenance crews to get that vegetation established? And then long-term is trying to maintain that vegetation out there versus keeping the noxious weeds out, some of our granular shoulders, different things like that, so.
Is this replacing somebody or?
Yeah, we had a retirement, that's
yeah.
coming March, I think it's March 31st. This would be effective March 11th, so, in the meantime, he'll still stay as equipment operator. And then at that point, we would transition him over to that. So, we talked a lot, this is a different pay grade, so it is equipment operator 2 is actually a higher step. So this employee will actually go down a step to move into this position based on our compensation tables, and they're fully aware of that. This individual is still on the program that we have as far as the training goes, been here for just a little over 2 years, so March 11th is an anniversary date that we have one more step in the process of our program that we have, so but they understand that there would be a change in pay grade effective March 11th.
And what band does that put in there?
You would ask me that, I think he's going from 25 to 24. I can get you that later for.
That's fine, that's close enough, yeah. I'm just sitting there
It's
looking, so.
one change.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, okay.
Any further discussion on that move?
No.
All in favor of that, motion, indicate by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion did pass, so.
Okay. So, with that, we will now be posting for an equipment operator, position. So, we call it an equipment operator, and then depending on experience and stuff, we have 2 levels for equipment operator. We have a 1 and 2. We're gonna be looking for specifics on that position, what we're gonna be doing, but we will be posting that and advertising that out. So, you'll see signs out on the road, out there in front of our building, and then we'll get it on the website. So we'll be working on that later this week to work on filling that position out that we have, so. Okay. All right, maintenance update. Last week and into this week, we've been working on brush cutting and trimming. We did do some work along 253rd Street. This week, we did have the boom mower as well, working in the southern part of the county again. And then our Durapatcher, we were trying to get, work done with the Durapatcher. We're running into some issues with the rock chips and the coldness of the rock, so, we're gonna, it's been a little bit slower process. We're still working on that and moving forward with that to work on these various locations we got throughout the county. Territory operators have been blading and working. That's starting to slow down. You're gonna start seeing us transition into working on some rocking as well now as the weather allows us to do that. And again, if we do put rock down, those are some conditions that we have to be careful because we're not out of snow season yet. But those are usually more shorter sections that we're looking at that we would maybe adjust how we're going to remove that snow when that comes in. But that's something that the blade operators take into effect when we do that, so. And then, we've also been working at the quarry, trying to do some cleanup out there, getting rid of, scrapping some of the steel that we have out there, do some general cleanup to get things ready. We have a crushing bid coming here next week that I'll be talking to you about, and then as well as just getting ready for ITC as we got a little bit of time to work with it. Miscellaneous and construction, again, I said quarry crushing bids will be coming in next week on the 19th, so I'll bring them up here and I'll actually open them in here, they're sealed, and we'll look at those and what we get for numbers. And then Fremont Avenue, this will be again east of Franklin, the concrete footing for the whole culvert is complete. So that's basically the floor where the water's running on. We did pour part of the barrel section yesterday, and then they're hoping to actually pour tomorrow or Monday. And then we're gonna work on Monday, and obviously being a holiday, that we may have to supply some staff to take care of that. But that box culvert would be complete as far as the concrete work goes. Then we have to wait for some curing and some aging time, and then they'll start backfilling to top the box. And then they are done with their work, and then we move in and work on finishing up the remainder of that to get that open for traffic at that point. So that's going well. They've been working pretty well with getting the concrete protected, making sure we're not working with frozen materials out there and stuff. So far that's been going well. 235th Street Bridge, the contractor's working on removal of that west pier still, but they've been working on the cofferdam, and the cofferdam, most of the sheet piling is in now, and then they can actually get equipment down in there and break that up. Again, we're quite a ways below stream bed, where they're working right now. Once they remove that, then they'll start working on the new foundation there as well. So things are progressing out there. So you can't see a whole lot, but there is work going on. And then the last item I had is just kind of sometimes just bad luck, I guess is the way I describe it. Our excavator we've been working on, we were out there yesterday with it. We had an issue with the hydraulic pump. And so we're looking at options, and that may affect our equipment budget that I presented to you. I just wanted to let you know that you may have to do some changes to that to do. So hopefully here, I talked to Robin just to make sure that if I do have to tweak that, essentially what that will change will be my ending balance that I presented to you guys on where I'm at. So it's something that we're looking into right now to kind of make sure our game plan. We may still be able to do some repairs on it. We're just trying to figure out what the right course of action is. So we're just trying to prepare you for the worst case scenario.
How old is that excavator?
2014, I believe, is when we purchased that. That is what I have right now, so if you have any questions from me, comments?
Question, Steve?
No. We talked about this morning, how old, so. Thank you.
We use it a lot.
We do, it is something we have put a lot more hours on it the last few years just because of where we're at and doing clearing, grubbing, and different projects like that, so it is pretty essential to our work that we do. Thank you.
Thank you.
There not being any other new business, we'll move into category unfinished business. And under letter A, that is posting of public notice for the Board of Supervisors on intent to appoint interim Henry County Attorney as follows. The listing is there. That's something I need to read here. It's also,
No, because you took this action the other day, actually, so it's going to be published. If you want to read, you can. If somebody wants a copy, they can just ask for a copy of it.
Betty?
I have a question for Steve. I was listening to the video last night and this morning, and we were discussing the timeline when a person could submit an application or about to submit a request to do a special election.
Petition, yes.
Or a petition for special election, excuse me. So, in listening to that, the conversation seemed a little confused. You know, when we read the code, it says 14 days after the appointment, is that correct? Or is it 14 days before?
It's both, 14 days before an appointment's made or 14 days after is my understanding.
Okay, because I'm looking at the code, and that was not my understanding of, I didn't think that was the conversation that we had when we were talking. I thought the conversation we had was the appointment and then 14 days after the appointment.
Yes, or 14 days before.
Yeah, I think that's the part we missed, or 14 days before.
Right, and I mentioned that.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking you, because it was a little,
Yes,
it
well-
wasn't straightforward, so yeah.
Well, and you
'Cause that's why I picked it up
recall,
on the
I
video,
found out
yeah.
just a few minutes beforehand that I was going to be advising you on that.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to make sure we all are understanding exactly what that
So a
code
special
says.
petition,
And
the signatures can be signed anytime now.
No.
That is a more complicated issue.
Okay.
I think once the appointment is made, any petition that had been started prior to that, they'd have to redo it. Is that your understanding too? So,
Because of the
because then the appointment's been made, so now it has to be for 14 days after that.
Right, okay, that's probably where the
And
confusion
I don't-
stands with the, and you said the code wasn't very clear, so
Yes,
it's obvious.
and one thing we didn't discuss, and I didn't think to mention it, you didn't ask me, the board itself could decide
If we
to
want
call a special election. So I just wanna throw that out there.
Yeah,
in
and
case-
I think that was obviously part of the conversation we had had, is because that's a $20,000 price tag, right? So, if we could avoid $20,000 to the county, we'd probably try to do that. But, Okay, that's good information, good
Yes.
clarity. So, again, just to make sure we're all understanding, so if the board makes an appointment, then those petitions have to have that. It's gotta be dated after the 19th.
That,
So when I talked to the state, they said as soon as the meeting ends, you can start getting signatures. And that would not start at day one.
Okay.
Day one would be, so you're doing it the 19th, day one would be the 20th. And then the last day, I believe, would be 3/5. But they would have to have it up to the auditor's office.
The 3rd of May.
Yep.
Okay.
But they did say that they could start as soon as the meeting ended.
Which is the next day, which is the 20th, right? Okay.
Well, right after the meeting. So let's say you guys are
So,
done at
on the
9,
day of the
10
meeting, as
o'clock.
soon as the meeting concludes.
Yep.
So it's the 19th after the meeting is complete.
Technically, yes.
Okay, all right. Because we said a couple of different dates there.
Yep.
So my question then is, if the board would decide to have the special election, does that, and we vote on that, does that change the time frame of when the special election could be?
So you could technically decide at your next meeting that you want to do a special election, and then we would start the process as of that date. So it would be moved up, yes.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
But just by a couple of weeks at that point, because we were talking 28th of April, right?
Correct.
Would be the only date prior to primary.
Correct. And, but you could, if you move it up, let me look at a calendar. Let's say you do it next week. It could possibly be March 31st. I do already have a special on April 7th. So it just kind of all depends on, I guess, you guys, what you decide what you want to do.
Can you combine 2 special elections into one to save cost? You cannot?
Well, so the special election that's on the 7th is just for the city of Salem. And I've already sent out cards to the city of Salem saying, hey, you're voting in Salem instead of emergency management.
Got it.
So it'd be a hassle, but I could do it if you guys could. That just
Okay. Just making sure we have all of our options available to us here.
So I
So,
don't know.
any other questions, Mark or Chad on that?
So your other special election is in Salem on April 7th.
correct. And the city of Salem will pay for that one. We do not pay for that.
We have to kind of juggle around through that and look that over, so. Any further questions on 5A? Hearing none. Gonna go to other business, Southeast Iowa Days recap, Steve Dietrich, who attended.
Yeah, I was just gonna give you a quick overview and recap of the Southeast Iowa Days and Des Moines this past week, and I know it's there somewhere. But last Wednesday and Thursday, we had attended the Southeast Iowa Days with a fairly large group of individuals that had gone out. There's probably 60 total, and we had some MU students as well, which was really, really good and interesting. They did a lot of really good work. Here we go. I'll just pop this up real quick. Not yet, not yet. Now, Gunnar, you're gonna have to educate me someday on why it keeps doing that. This is a group of folks, and you probably recognize a number of them, that had gone up to the meeting. Obviously, we've got Taylor Collins and Adrian Dickey in the front here as well. And we just talked to Lisa a little bit ago, and Mayor Brimhall. And then the young individuals in the back here are the MU students that do presentations. They take on issues and topics that they'd like to see the legislature talk about and discuss and bring it into light. We had really good presentations over the course of the 2 days. We started at noon on Wednesday and went to noon on Thursday, and then had a legislative reception with all of our folks on Wednesday afternoon. And we wrapped it up with these folks in the auditorium on Thursday afternoon. Really good presentations. Emily Shields did a really good job of presenting for the community colleges, and there's a lot of work going into that right now for 4-year degrees from community colleges, helping to reduce the cost and also keep young people in our communities. So that was pretty interesting, and that there is some legislation going on that right now. And Debbie Durham is always really interesting to talk to and had a lot of comments that really ties back into some of the things that we talked about over the course of the last couple of weeks with Mount Pleasant Area Development Commission as well. So really good information, background, and I think they've all been working together very closely, which is encouraging. And if you have any questions, I've got a brochure and a pamphlet for that you can read and review. And then I also had a Russ meeting yesterday. So we did an update on Russ, really looked at the financials, had a couple of really major impacts down in Argyle where we've got to replace a couple of pumps. So that's a fairly substantial expense that's going out. We also looked at the audit, which I brought back and gave to the auditor's office because they have to keep that on file. And then talk to my counterparts about what they're doing and on raises for the next year or compensation. So I sent you guys an email on that, so you can take a look at that. So it was a good networking opportunity as usual. And I think in general, we're in good shape there. I did talk to Bruce Hudson, and he said that he had supplied a worksheet on budget to Robin, so we can get that, and that'll finish up what we do with public health. And hopefully we'll have that sometime today. I think he sent it on Tuesday. And for subcommittees, that's it for me.
Was there any staffing changes with Russ or anything?
There are not, no. Bruce Hudson is back. He had an injury and he's back. We do have a work comp issue with Russ, but the team's working through that.
Okay. Under letter B, subcommittee reports from any of us?
I have none.
Okay. I attended yesterday at the Union Block Building. I attended a gathering. We all did. That was kind of related to some of my subcommittee with economic development and things like that. But they kind of kicked that off. They said I was surprised on the dollar figures that they had announced that they were already working towards. So that was a good, pleasant surprise. So, other than that, other business, under letter C, Henry County Engineer Weekly Report. Did you have anything
I've already done.
additional to go with?
Nothing's happened since it.
No, we had.
Under other business, I'm a little concerned. We have not been notified of this, have not seen the resignation letter, but apparently on the 23rd of January, Ms. Ferguson resigned, gave that letter to the auditor, but did not share that with HR or with us. So it concerns me that we have people gatekeeping rather than facilitating. Those are issues that should be brought up to us to help us make sure that we mitigate any potential concerns with the county. Because as supervisors, we're charged with budgets, insurance, just about everything you can possibly imagine. Our names are on those. So there is nothing confidential about a resignation unless there's something specifically mentioned in the resignation that ties back into a HIPAA requirement. So I think there's something that we need to talk about and make sure that folks are following the process. There is a process through HR, and it's not being done. It's not being completed. This is twice in the last 5 months this has happened. And as you can tell, it really frustrates me.
I'm gonna express a little frustration too. I try not to do that a whole lot. I had made the simple inquiry if Robin had received a resignation letter from the county attorney secretary. She told me she had, and I said, can I get a copy of that for my county attorney process, my file work here? And she said, no, I could not, and that kind of made me wonder, well, not even having received a courtesy information memo that had happened, it kind of put me out. I mean, I didn't think that was right. I think I have the right to know if somebody resigned within county employment, just for the very reasons that Steve had mentioned. I mean, there's computer access, there's keys, there's all the above information, you know, salaries and everything like that, that I think's an important thing to know. And I found that a little bit frustrating. Then, yeah, I feel a little frustrated about that.
You know, again, we have an HR person that needs to be in the loop on it, just to make sure that we're documenting ourselves and making sure that we have the checkoff list that he's provided available, and make sure that it's done and completed correctly, so that we do have all those steps checked and done.
And I just want to let it be known, I'm not asking for dates of birth and social security numbers. I could care less about that confidential information stuff. It's a date of a resignation, when things went into effect and things like that. I could care less about confidential personal information. That's not what I'm asking for. But just a common courtesy that somebody resigned, I think is within my lane or within my wheelhouse, if you will. So.
I would agree, and I'd also say that HR needs to be familiar with it, and they were not notified in any capacity.
I'd asked Mark, he was not aware of any resignation. Steve was not aware of any resignation. Then it seems almost like I got tattled on for inquiring about it, so. So I guess.
Well, I'm glad you asked, because we might not have known.
I guess inquiring minds want to know. So I guess I'm gonna ask a question if it deals with something I think is within my ballpark.
Oh, that's right, I would like to address just one aspect of the comments, and that was regarding you having a copy of the resignation letter. That's to be kept in their personnel file. Personnel files are not, copies of that should not be distributed elsewhere in the county. That's something that's kept in the auditor's office only. And that's the only part of your comments I'm addressing, because the rest involves
Okay.
personnel issues, and I will not discuss personnel
Okay.
issues at a public meeting.
Right, understand.
I'm gonna address that. Again, I don't care about if I would have been given a date.
And that's why I said I'm not addressing the rest
Yep.
of your comment, just that particular aspect.
So.
Kind of important, so we understand what we're tagged with from all.
Well, and I
financial
don't want you to
liability.
cross lines that could get you in trouble.
I appreciate that, yeah, thank you.
And my last other business, last meeting, there was not a public comments section given. I didn't ask for public comment. There's no conspiracy theory there's nothing. It was my bad. I didn't ask for it. I didn't put that out. Another thing that come to mind here, there's a recent official Iowa Attorney General's opinion concerning county sheriff's salaries and how that comes, her opinion on those. And that's something I think we're gonna have to look at and address, so.
Not only is it an Attorney General's opinion, but it's also confirmed in 2 recent lawsuits. So, something that we need to take a look at. Make sure that
4 years.
we're not involved in that as well. It was Ringgold County
Ringgold and Wayne County.
and Wayne, okay. Thank you.
So, any further other business? Moving right on into public comments.
I have one to make.
Mr. Lichty?
I apologize for the typos in the document. I'll come over here so everybody can hear. I would like to take this opportunity to address a letter from a group identifying themselves as the Inter-County Watchman, which was posted to Facebook and reportedly sent to the local newspapers. If you've ever seen the movie Shooter and Bob D. Swagger, quote, "They killed my dog," you'll understand my necessity for being here today. First, I consider Darren Stater and Rich McNamee to both be friends of mine. As a magistrate, my duties require I work with both the Office of the County Attorney and all law enforcement. It has been important for me and Patrick Brawl, the other magistrate, not to be drawn into the county sheriff struggle. Since I'm regularly at the courthouse, I am very aware that there is a certain fraction of citizens who not only attend supervisor meetings to keep aware of county business, but also to attend for the purpose to influence all aspects of county business. At times, these efforts include disparaging statements intended to influence, although may not outright lies, are made in total disregard for the truth. Allegations are spewed or inferred, regardless if there is a legitimate basis. Sometimes not on point, but just mean statements intended to cast shade on others. The problem is that some people will read the Watchman letter or watch a podcast and assume these allegations to be true without any inquiry on their own. I have been a magistrate for over 20 years. Since the appearance of the Watchman at the courthouse, beginning with the windmill issue approximately 2 years ago, I observed a general deterioration in the work environment at the courthouse. Every elected official in this courthouse has come under attack, sometimes by other elected officials. The result has caused turmoil, chaos, frustration, and mistrust in the entire courthouse. This particular Watchman letter concerning the current county attorney situation is especially disappointing because not only is my daughter needlessly attacked, so is my family, and it calls into question the ethics of our judicial system. Abby's only been at the county attorney's office for a couple weeks and has absolutely nothing to do with the prior county attorney sheriff discord. At least one of the Henry County Watchmen has my personal cell phone number and is called on other matters. All the misguided innuendos and personal attacks contained in the letter could have been avoided if any effort had been made to reach out and ask a few questions. Since this has not been done, I will personally look at each of you in the eye and attempt to provide some facts as I know them to correct the record. First, I do not know the circumstances of Blake Vieira's resignation. I do not know Mr. Vieira on a personal level that would cause him to discuss these issues with me. Everyone has monthly expenses and a need for consistent income. Due to the hostile climate surrounding the entire courthouse and specifically the attack on the county attorney's office, Mr. Vieira's job security was dependent on this year's November election. I understand why he took a different job with more security. Sometimes things happen by happenstance without any nefarious intent. To suggest Abby's hire to replace Mr. Vieira was a result of nepotism is completely void of any factual basis. Darren Stater contacted Ms. Abby Lichty directly about being a part-time assistant county attorney to assume Mr. Vieira's juvenile duties. Mr. Stater did not consult or give me any heads up before contacting Abby, nor was he required to do so. He has an office to run. I learned of Mr. Vieira's resignation and of the assistant attorney job opportunity only from my daughter Abby. I assume Mr. Stater observed Ms. Lichty's abilities and potential prior to making his offer. Sometimes it is a matter of being in the right place at the right time. Necessity created an opportunity. Familiar relationships had nothing to do with it. Look around. There are not a lot of attorneys in Southeast Iowa. The hostile environment, the risk of immediately being saddled with the same hostilities directed at Mr. Stater by mere association, and the risk of being of a job depending on the November election were all reasons not to take the job. But Abby is fearless. An attorney who I respect did call me and warned me to dissuade Abby from taking the job in Henry County, its office, because Abby could be collateral damage. I told the attorney it was not my decision. Abby is an independent grown woman with a mind of her own. After I did tell Abby, you get to work on time, work hard, do your job, you will create your own legacy. After reading statements in the Watchman letter and other misguided statements from others, I am disappointed to admit that I was wrong. The attacks evidenced in the manner of the Watchman letter are more typical of mortal enemies. These types of attacks could dissuade other attorneys from wanting to work in Henry County in the future. In discussions with Ms. Lichty, I know she accepted the position with the full expectation of being mentored as a prosecutor for at least the remaining year. Ms. Lichty was also very excited because she was going to be able to do juvenile work on the other side, different from her prior court appointments. Abby recognizes firsthand the issues facing parents and children in the juvenile system. Ms. Lichty has plans to improve the juvenile system by not only holding the parents' feet to the fire, but to ensure HHS workers are accurate and that the HS timely provide the necessary services and that there be ongoing contact and communications between all interested parties, including the county attorney's office, to facilitate success. I myself was shocked and disappointed with Mr. Stater's resignation because my daughter and the others in the office were left hung out. On Tuesday, February 3rd, at 5 p.m., I found out about Mr. Stater's resignation on my way home from work during a telephone conversation with my wife. Darren had been in court the morning of February 3rd and did not say anything about resigning. On February 5th, I asked Darren Stater about the timing of events concerning his resignation. Apparently on Tuesday, February 3rd, a different job opportunity presented itself with a short period to accept. I specifically asked Darren if he had any intentions of resigning prior to hiring Abby. His response was no, that job had not come up. There was no conspiracy to get Abby, the lone remaining Henry County resident in the office, the county attorney's position. While I understand Mr. Stater's decision to accept more secure employment, Mr. Stater's sudden resignation because it left Abby, Nicole Rose, and Steve Giebelhausen in compromised position because of Becky Wilson's statements of clearing out the entire office. The Watchman letter contains accusations in the form of questions which raise the issue of ethics regarding my daughter and myself and the judicial system. The county attorney's juvenile duties occur in the district associate courtroom and are handled by a district associate judge. I have no presence in the district associate courtroom, and its court is superior to the magistrate court. And yes, everyone involved understood it would be a conflict for Abby to do anything in which I was involved in as a magistrate in the magistrate courtroom. This type of conflict could not be hidden from court administration. This conflict is no different than the conflict presents from Steve Ort, my boss, appearing in front of me, or previously prevented Abby from appearing in front of me while she was employed by Stephen Ort in the magistrate courtroom. Alternate arrangements were made so neither appeared in front of me in court. To allow planning on Wednesday, February 4th at 8:30 a.m., I contacted Sean Showers, Chief Judicial Judge of the 8th Judicial District, concerning the potential conflict if Abby were to be appointed or later elected Henry County Attorney. Being the county attorney creates a different level of conflict than the conflicts created by an assistant county attorney. Chief Judge Showers assured me arrangements would be made wherein I would no longer handle criminal matters or other matters involving county attorney office, similar to the arrangements made in North Lee County a few years back in a conflict involving a county attorney and a district associate judge who were siblings. There were never, ever any intentions of violating the judicial ethics obligations regarding obvious conflicts. The Watchman letter also calls out Nicole Rose for testifying in a hearing involving the county attorney. Hopefully the letter is not an attempt to chill the future willingness of witnesses to testify under oath in court. I do not understand why testifying potentially places her job at risk. Whether anyone has taken the time to research Assistant County Attorney Steve Giebelhausen's experience in prior positions, you would find out that he is a true asset for Henry County. The letter also mentions a non-public letter which was sent by Abby to the supervisors to introduce herself. It was not mentioned how the Watchman obtained said email or how it was even knowledge of the letter if it was not received directly from a supervisor. I have also been told secondhand and without any confirmation that a current supervisor is using his supervisor group email contact list to elicit support and is actively campaigning for one candidate over the other. If this is true, it could be cause for the supervisor to recuse himself from participation in decisions to select an interim county attorney. We all want transparency. To address the Watchman letter as a citizen and its request for transparency, I would like to know the names of the entire staff that Becky Wilson has allegedly standing ready to take over the county attorney's office. I would think this needs to be disclosed so everyone knows whether they will retain their job when this is over, and most importantly, who the public is actually supporting in this package deal. It is time for those who accuse others of hiding an agenda to themselves come out of the weeds. Thank you for your time.
I'm
not answering questions.
I'm not asking a question, I'm commenting.
I want to make, on paragraph, a couple pages back, it was very well made known that you had made arrangements with the court system to distance yourself from any cases like that. It was very well made known.
And I told Supervisor Lindeen, but the public doesn't know that, and I want the public not to lose faith in the court
That's
system.
an important thing. It was made well known to us that that would not be an issue.
Okay.
I would like to know why you think that the citizens don't
I'm not
have a
answering.
right. I'm not asking you a question, I'm just commenting that you seem to think citizens do not have a right to question what's going on in the county.
I'm not a supervisor, you have to ask them.
Unbelievable.
Chad, that took 8 minutes.
I'm sorry.
That took 8 minutes, so with all due respect to other folks, we need to be equal.
We're still open for comments.
I am just stunned at
John?
his accusations against the Watchman. I'm not part of the Watchman. We probably don't agree on much politically, but they have every right to do what they're doing. And I, as a citizen, I couldn't help but think, yeah, there is an impression of nepotism. How could you not think that? And I also think that it's the height of arrogance for someone who's been out of school 18 months and has served in the county attorney's office for 20 days to run for county attorney. Now, maybe that's what the county wants, but I would want someone with more experience. And that's the end of my comment. Oh, other than there are accusations about how she was hired. I don't know if those accusations are true or not, but I have a FOIA request to find out. And I have every right to do so, regardless of what the magistrate says.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I got a letter I've had for a while. Pass that down to the Watchman, and then if you would, hand one over to Tracy with the Hawkeyes. And I got it printed on the front and back both. I'm conserving paper. I'm a little tight on my budget right now. So, you know, Valentine's Day coming up and everything, so trying to be a little conservative here. But anyhow, this letter, you two, Tad and Mark, I'm sure you've seen it. I don't know about you, Steve, but the letter's dated December 17, 2014, from IT Director Derek Wellington to the Henry County Attorney to request resignation of Supervisor Chad White. Because Chad told Sheriff McNamee he could use his budget to pay outside counsel for Deputy Carlos Lopez. Wellington claims White is undermining the trust of supervisors paying for outside counsel. Paying for outside counsel is no longer an issue when this letter was sent. So, Wellington lectures about the stewardship of county resources while he's been scamming the taxpayers for overtime for years. Other supervisors before you, Steve Dietrich, did not request accountability from the auditor or the IT department. The sheriff's department and other departments have to report monthly. Only Chad was asked to resign. All three supervisors approved payment for outside counsel from the sheriff's budget. And when the county attorney came in here, I don't remember what day it was, he scolded all three supervisors. He didn't single out Chad White. All three of them got scolded. Greg Moore, he was on his way out, only had a couple weeks left. And for some reason, I don't know, Mark, what your relationship is, you know, electrical work and conflict of interest, whatever. Wellington called me on the 3rd of September at 2 p.m. and he said he wanted both Chad and Steve Dietrich removed. Steve had nothing to do with that paying outside counsel. He wasn't here then. So that really wasn't the issue. What the issue seemed to be was taking the IT director out of the control of the auditor's office. That seems to be his heartburn. Anyhow, allowing Wellington to go unsupervised for 18 years has cost the taxpayers an unknown amount. Now his retaliation is a burden and more cost to all of us. Supervisors won't even answer the phone. If any form of retaliation, this is in that letter, is used against Wellington, he threatens legal action. So that's what this freedom of information request that you guys are getting is all about, except Mark, you're not getting them. But, and if it wouldn't have been for Steve Dietrich coming in here, we'd still be dealing with the same thing, no doubt in my mind. Okay, now about the county attorney and Abby, oh boy. I really didn't expect her dad to come in here and defend her, but I don't know, maybe somebody else is going to talk about that. But okay, so she was hired for an assistant county attorney starting January 12.
and then the county attorney resigned on February 9th. He had 3 weeks to train her. I heard she repainted the office. Hey, correct me on any of this stuff if I'm wrong, okay? I heard she repainted the office without the approval of the new county attorney before she met our sheriff and the chief of police. Now she wants to be interim county attorney and will run for office in November. She's following Stater's footsteps. Doesn't indicate a plan to improve the office, no experience. Her dad's a magistrate, yeah, we know that. Possible conflict of interest, just more of the same. And she's related to Derek Wellington. Representative Taylor Collins has done a lot of work for Henry County because of the problems that County Attorney Stater caused. Taylor's very well respected and has endorsed Becky Wilson for County Attorney. Sheriff McNamee, very well respected, received more votes in the last election than any other county candidate, and he's endorsed Becky Wilson. Law enforcement should be involved in the decision for the county attorney. Mark Lindy's been compromised in starting his first term with that dirt deal. He has tried to influence who should be sheriff. He obviously has ties to Wellington. Mark should recuse himself from any decisions until we figure out how he's been involved in the corruption that has plagued Henry County for years. We don't need any more problems. As of Tuesday, Abby Leafy has not initiated contact with the sheriff. Is that still correct?
That's correct.
But she did Tuesday. She did finally call the chief of police. And she could have walked over there while the paint's drying. Just a little way. But anyhow, that's all I got.
Thank you. Any further communication on public comment?
Yes. It's a copy of the letter that Tim's referring to. I'm sorry he takes it as threats, because it wasn't intended that way. We just think that Becky Wilson is probably the most fit for this office at this time. I have no doubt that Abby Leakey is going to be a wonderful lawyer someday. So here I have a petition that we, the Watchmen, started. There's 285 plus or minus signatures there. I'll read what it says at the top. Henry County Attorney resigned on February 3rd, 2026. Henry County Board of Supervisors must now appoint an interim county attorney to serve in the office. We, the undersigned citizens of Henry County, are asking and encouraging the Henry County Board of Supervisors to appoint Becky Wilson as the interim county attorney. Becky will still run for the position in the November general election against anyone who follows procedure to run against her. Becky will be a fresh start for the Henry County Attorney's Office. It's time to break from the past and appoint someone who has no relationships, family lineage, or links to the former county attorney or the issues that have been plagued the office for the last few years. Becky Wilson will help restore trust in the office for the community, law enforcement, victims, and victims of crime. Honesty, transparency, and accountability must return to the county attorney's office immediately. Appointing Becky Wilson to the position of Henry County attorney will accomplish this. This is nothing but an endorsement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further?
I just want to clear one. I'm not a member of the Henry County Watchmen, okay? I know those people, and I consider them friends, but I can't afford the dues, so I'm not part of them.
Thank you. Anything further? Hearing none. Next thing on my agenda is adjournment. Would there be a motion for such?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Would there be a second? And all in favor of adjournment, indicate by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting is adjourned.